In 2000, a small team at Infogrames Sheffield House released a game that was destined to be a cult classic rather than a mainstream success. Hogs of War, a quirky, turn-based strategy game that cast players as pig soldiers waging a cartoonish world war, was a peculiar concoction of slapstick humor, challenging gameplay, and clever satire. Though not as celebrated as some of its contemporaries, Hogs of War has remained memorable to those who played it for its unexpected depth, irreverent humor, and unique style. Behind the game's ridiculous premise was a team that embraced humor and pushed boundaries, creating something truly original that left a lasting impact on those who experienced it. We look at the story of Hogs of War, from its development and the vision of its creators, to the unforgettable humor brought by legendary British comedian Rik Mayall, and, ultimately, to the lessons this unlikely game taught about failure, resilience, and the joy of shared laughter. The development of Hogs of War began at Infogrames Sheffield House, a relatively small and spirited branch of the larger French game publisher Infogrames. The team wanted to take a unique approach to the turn-based strategy genre, which was, at the time, heavily dominated by games like Worms. However, instead of sticking with a familiar formula, they chose to add a twist, to create a satirical, World War II-inspired game populated not with human soldiers but with pigs. The idea sounds ludicrous, and perhaps it was, but that's precisely what made it memorable. For the team at Sheffield House, the concept of pigs fighting in an anthropomorphic world of warfare became the perfect platform for injecting humor and a bit of cultural satire. Led by passionate developers who wanted to create something that stood out from the crowd, they crafted a setting that blended absurdity with strategy. The pigs of Hogs of War weren't just soldiers, they were caricatures, each team embodying exaggerated national stereotypes in a way that bordered on the satirical but managed to stay playful. These characters created a lively backdrop against which the game's brutal turn-based battles could unfold. One of the most remarkable aspects of Hogs of War was its voice acting, primarily performed by Rik Mayall, the celebrated British comedian known for his roles in shows like The Young Ones and Bottom. Mayall's wild energy and distinctive voice brought a unique flavor to the game, turning what could have been simple NPC dialogue into memorable, laugh-out-loud moments. Mayall voiced almost every character, giving each pig a unique personality through an array of exaggerated accents and distinctly British humor that was dry, cheeky, and, at times, self-deprecating. The decision to cast Mayall was a stroke of genius. Known for his anarchic comedic style, Mayall was given free rein to ad-lib and improvise, bringing an authenticity and unpredictability that few games had at the time. For players like me, Mayall's voice work was as much a part of the game as the mechanics themselves. He turned each victory and defeat into a comical spectacle. His lines were delivered with such exaggerated gusto that it was impossible not to laugh, even when the outcome of a match was a devastating loss. Through Mayall's voice, the game developed a personality that was distinctly British, dark, and delightfully irreverent. His characters mocked the absurdity of warfare, transforming each pig into a tiny, tragicomic figure with equal parts bravado and vulnerability. For a kid encountering this kind of humor for the first time, it was revelatory. I would find myself quoting lines to friends or replaying segments just to hear them again. Even now, those quotes pop into my head, a reminder of the lasting power of a perfectly delivered line. For all its humor, Hogs of War was no easy game. Beneath the cartoonish graphics and slapstick antics was a deceptively challenging turn-based strategy game. Players controlled a team of pigs, each with unique classes like engineers, medics, snipers, and heavy gunners. Every move had to be carefully planned, from choosing which pig to deploy to calculating the precise angle and distance for each attack. With destructible environments and the need to manage health and ammunition, Hogs of War was surprisingly deep for a game that marketed itself on humor. I remember struggling through missions, where a single misstep could lead to disastrous results. The gameplay taught me the importance of thinking several steps ahead, of planning each move with the next in mind. It was my first experience with tactical gaming, and I wasn't very good at it. But the game encouraged perseverance in a way that was incredibly endearing. Failing spectacularly, whether from slipping off a cliff or mistiming a grenade throw, was as much a part of the fun as succeeding. The game didn't punish failure in the same way other games did. Instead, it made failure funny and even delightful, which softened the blow of defeat and encouraged players to keep going. Looking back, I realize how formative this experience was. Hogs of War taught me that failing doesn't mean giving up, it means laughing it off, learning from it, and trying again. This was an invaluable lesson for a kid growing up, learning to tackle life's challenges with resilience and a sense of humor. Hogs of War quickly became more than just a solo experience for me. It was a game I wanted to share with my friends and family, a source of endless inside jokes and shared laughter. My friends and I would gather around the TV, passing the controller and cheering each other on, laughing at every spectacular failure and improbable victory. We'd give each pig a nickname, create our own narratives around their personalities, and shout at the screen when things went horribly wrong. It became a shared adventure, each of us invested in the outcome of these ridiculous battles. I even got my dad involved. He didn't play many games, but Hogs of War caught his attention. I remember the first time he picked up the controller, saying, "Let me have a go." He wasn't any better than I was, but it didn't matter. We'd both be laughing, him shaking his head at the absurdity of it all, and me feeling that rare joy of connecting with my dad over something so silly and fun. Hogs of War turned my living room into a battleground of laughter and camaraderie, something that few games have managed to replicate since. As I grew older, my understanding of Hogs of War deepened. What I had initially thought of as simple comedy revealed itself to be clever satire. Each faction of pigs represented a caricature of a different national military, from the pompous English to the stoic Russians, and the absurdity of their interactions hinted at a larger commentary on war and nationalism. The exaggerated accents, over-the-top uniforms, and nonsensical mission objectives weren't just there for laughs, they poked fun at the very concept of war itself, at the way nations compete for land, pride, and power in the most ridiculous ways. I began to see Hogs of War as more than just a funny game. It was a satire that used comedy to question serious themes, the absurdity of nationalism, the futility of conflict, and the strangeness of military tradition. For a game aimed at kids, this was profound. It introduced me to the idea that games could be more than just entertainment, they could make us think and even challenge our assumptions. Returning to Hogs of War as an adult has been like revisiting an old friend, familiar yet somehow different, revealing new layers I didn't see the first time around. The graphics may look dated, and the controls may feel clunky compared to modern games, but the essence of what made Hogs of War special is still there. The humor still makes me laugh, the strategy still challenges me, and the memories it holds feel as vivid as ever. In many ways, Hogs of War taught me lessons I didn't realize I was learning. It taught me that laughter and failure often go hand in hand, that shared experiences with friends and family can elevate even the simplest moments, and that games, no matter how silly they may seem, have the power to leave a lasting impact. Hogs of War may not be remembered as a mainstream classic, but for those who played it, it's unforgettable. The developers at Infogrames Sheffield House took a risk by making a game that defied conventions, and in doing so, they created something truly unique. The humor of Rik Mayall, the challenging gameplay, and the satirical edge combined to create an experience that still resonates with players today. For me, Hogs of War is more than just a game. It's a reminder of the power of laughter, the value of perseverance, and the joy of shared moments with friends and family. In a world that often takes itself too seriously, Hogs of War is a reminder to embrace the absurd, to laugh through our failures, and to find joy in the most unexpected places. And, perhaps, that's a legacy worth remembering.